everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv, where every day is a great day of learning about the FileMaker, Claris FileMaker platform. That's the company and the platform name. And so it's very exciting for us to be here today. This is Thursday. We got 2 days of an exciting topic today with Vince Minato from Beeswax. With that in mind, I want to have us join for the next 2 days. So Vince Minato was here helping us with the FileMaker 2124 release. Him and Will came on and talked about AI. Was some really great content. And they said, Richard, since we're on the show, we're doing this great content, we really would love to show you about our product called InspectorPro version 8. And so I am all for looking at that. So this is InspectorPro based on the website. We're going to switch over here to Vince momentarily, but it's a product. The older product was version 7. This is version 8. In a very loose sort of way, it's in the world of what we call, because I have a subscription, a license for base elements. I may end up having to get a license for this. I'm like all of you looking at this more or less kind of for the first time, but everyone talks really highly about this product. And so it's a utility for developers to better understand what the hell is happening in their product. They're on version 8. It's got some pretty amazing things in it. And Vince has got 2 days here to walk us through it. There's a lot of it's not just about this, but a lot of this has to do with the XML generation that's coming in FileMaker, and that's a much bigger deal than just Vince. I think Vince will talk about XML probably version 1, version 2. All of you need to pay attention to this because whether you use InspectorPro or not, XML output out of FileMaker is essential. It's essential, and Claris is making it better, and I will color commentate a little bit around the edges as necessary, but this is important. So with that in mind, I want to welcome Vince. So hi, Vince. How are you?
I'm good, Richard. Thanks for having me.
So what I always ask people, who are you and what are you doing and why should we care about what you're saying today?
So why should you care? Well, I've been doing this for a very long time, and it's a tool that helps developers build better solutions, basically.
Now you had a product. You've doing a product like this for years. You had a product, was Analyzer or something way back, and it was Waves in Motion way back.
You go back as long as I do, right? So you remember Bob Cusick from the early days.
Yes.
Bob Cusick had something called Click Stats or something like that, and it used the design functions and documented everything, but he didn't have anything to document scripts. So when I lived in Montreal, I built something called DocuScript, which was based on print to pict and outputting the stream. Yeah, so it started off as just scripts, documenting scripts. And then I tried to ask Bob if he was interested in partnering. And then, I think Bob had other interests and he went off and did Savoy and I don't know whatever else he did after that. But so then I decided, well, he's not doing it anymore. So I decided to brand a new product called Analyzer. And that Analyzer is
I bought like that. That was the de facto standard for a lot of years for analyzing a FileMaker solution.
So Analyzer, and then when I left Arizona and went to California, I rebranded it again under the name of InspectorPro.
Okay.
And so
this is many years of development and your professional expertise.
So, I mean, why should you care? Well, if you work by yourself and you've got a large system, you probably don't remember everything what that system does or everywhere a script is referenced or a field is used, etc. And it's so easy to wreak havoc. So you can just go in and delete a value list and you've just inserted a bunch of problems. Like it doesn't tell you like, hey, by the way, this value list is used in all these places. It's gotten better over the years. So now if you try and delete a field, and that field is referenced in calculations, it won't let you delete it. So it's gotten better to that point. But however, if the field is coming from another file and it's used somewhere else somehow, it won't. In some cases, if you've got it referenced on a layout and things like that, it's like in those cases, it won't bother you and tell you like you can't delete it. You just thought you delete it, and now you have a bunch of problems. You have a field missing on a layout. You have a field missing in the script. So for that point of view, it helps you maintain the integrity of your solutions.
Margaret ran into this 2 weeks ago, did we not, Margaret? You knew I was going to bring it up. You knew it.
Knew it was
You
coming.
knew it was coming,
Oh,
right?
Me and Richard work on a solution together as two engineers for a particular company, and I did the junior engineer thing where I just began reworking layouts because they were abandoned as far as I was concerned.
They weren't abandoned layouts. So if you would have had Inspector, Margaret, you would have actually prevented major mayhem. So that's good. All right. Well, keep going, Vince. I'm excited. What do you got?
Okay. Well, I got a few slides to go over really quick, just to kind of talk about some key things, and then we can talk about the differences. Like so, Inspector 8 is really is, for us. It's setting a new foundation. So let me just go through these slides real quick.
Sure.
So anyway, this is InspectorPro. We tried to focus on three core elements when we built this from the ground up. Performance obviously is always top consideration. You want the tool to be really fast and performant, and we did a lot there. And I'm really excited about the performance we've gotten. Collaboration, because at Beeswax we're a large team of people, and we always we staff projects by not just one person but many people. And so sometimes you have 2 or 3 developers. You have an IT person to help manage the server and all that kind of stuff. So, and then insight into like understanding where things are referenced to, the spaghetti code, basically, where is this used, etc., so that you know that you're not going to break things if you know that things are referenced. And then I added this other thing called efficiency, just because that's really a really big deal in this release, and you'll see in one of the slides. In the past, every time you would run it, it would just gobble up the DDR, which is the database design report. It's all output in XML, so it would gobble up everything, and then it takes more time every time you run it because it gets all that data over and over again, and so the file will get larger, and the thing would get slower. And so in this release, what we managed to do is, first off, we switched to using save as XML, save a copy as XML, which is a kind of a new format and a new direction that Claris is going in. And that enables us to then be more efficient and just save the differences. And so it dramatically saves on space. And so you'll see that in a later slide. So performance, collaboration, insight, and efficiency. So again, I'm Vince Manano. I'm Chief Innovation Officer. That's my official title at Beeswax. And these are the different ways that you can reach me. I have 2 kids. They're wonderful kids. They're getting older. And they're doing some amazing things. My daughter actually won the nationals in her age group in the US. 4 gold medals. She's top in her class.
Wow.
So, and in gymnastics. And this just happened like a month ago.
Wow.
So, so as my son dirt biking, one of his new adventures. So, I've got an exciting life, and my kids keep me very busy, and it's fun times. Okay, so just a couple of things about workflow comparison. Everything before 8, version 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, whatever, and analyzer, whatever. This was always the way it would kind of work. Basically, it would be the inspector file would be hosted, and you'd have your solution, and then you'd ask it to generate the DDR. The DDR then gets generated locally, and now you have it locally, and that takes time. That takes time to generate that XML, and you could generate the DDR for multiple files all at once, and then it would save it. You'd save it somewhere, and then you'd send it back to the server, an inspector, to actually process it. And so then it would get sent to the server, and then it would process it with process on server with don't wait. So this process was very inefficient because first you'd download it, then you'd upload it back to Inspector. It's not able to be scripted. It's not server compatible, so it's very slow. And by the way, save a copy as XML, ironically, is even slower. So if you have a file that's hosted on a network, and you say, I want to, like, of any size complexity, modest size or really complex size or whatever, it's not, you're gonna pay the price to generate that XML. It's just really, really slow. So don't do it, basically. So that was 7. 8 is a completely different animal. 8, what 8 does is, because it's scriptable, you don't even need, you can host the inspector file on the server, but you don't even need the inspector file to be open. Once you've added the add-on into your file, then you've configured it such that you just type in a message and fire it off, and then it generates the XML on the server and then sends the XML, sends the information as to where the XML is to inspector, and then inspector knows this XML belongs to this solution, and I'm going to process it. So save as XML, or I should say save a copy as XML, is server compatible. We have an integration, an add-on, which I'll show you how to put together. And then
I have a
Richard is
question.
waving.
I'm
Yeah,
waving. I have a question. Sorry. So you're saying that, like, when I use base elements, I have the solution, I kick out a DDR, and then it has to import it, and it does this thing. But you're saying that somehow we do an add-on, and then we press a button in the solution, and then the FileMaker server through a PSOS or something is going to script and run all this in the back end, so we don't have to deal with it on the front end. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. 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 It's very cool when you see it in action.
All right, cool.
And so the integration is an add-on that you can add to your files. You just add it to one file, and then if you have multiple files, you just have to make some scripting change to be able to say, I want to run the XML in this other file, and then it just knows where to put all the XML. And then when it's done it for all the files, then it hands over the processing to inspector to say, hey, inspector, go ahead and process everything you see in this directory, and it's related to this solution. So it could be one or more files. A comment can be added when you run the analysis, and then, again, inspector doesn't even need to be open, and it's incredibly fast.
On the client, right?
On the client, yeah, you can type in a comment when you run it. It brings up a card window. You type in a comment, hit return. It's running on the server.
Okay.
So again, it's very, very fast. If you run it on server, do not run save as XML on a hosted file locally.
Okay.
You're gonna pay for it. Just a graph comparison, just to kind of show you like some of the engineering behind, like, so this is 7 and this is 8. This is 7.
Okay, let me back up. Let me ask you a question. The normal, just default response, what I would have to this is, what features did you remove to make the graph simpler? Because normally, to simplify the graph that much, you have to just chop features out. Did you chop features out?
I wouldn't say chop. Like, it's a hard question to answer because we have new features that we never had before, and yet we have still features that we haven't added yet. So we used to have features that we still don't have, but we're still working on. So in a sense, yes, there are features that we don't have, but those are coming in different ways.
Okay.
But the graph, as you can see, is dramatically different.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's a lot simpler.
Yeah.
A lot simpler.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. So just to kind of give you some numbers here, we went from 339 tables to 242. That's almost a 30% reduction. Table occurrences, 80% reduction. Relationships, 96%, almost 97% reduction. That's crazy. Like, when Clay saw that, he says the file must open like really quickly, and it does. It opens really, really quickly. So, and dependencies, we chopped down the number of fields in the dependency file to 17, which is 70% reduction. And dependencies, the dependency table is like the grand central station. That's where all the activity happens. So you have like a from and a to, and we had 56 fields before for various reasons, and we had a lot of indexes, and so we managed to simplify it and reduce it to like only 17 fields and fewer indexes. And so because all the activity happens there, we've seen dramatic performance improvements even on imports that happen in the dependency table. So again, this is just a list of fields that were in the dependency table, so you can see those differences. The big deal, the really big deal, is the processing difference. So 7, again, restating the fact that 7 used to grab everything in the DDR every single time. So you run it, you've got like 27,000 items across fields, layouts, scripts, etc. It's going to grab all those 27,000 items all over again. And if you're increasing your code base, you're just adding more and more. It's just filling that pool of data to a larger degree. And so over time, if you have over 100 analyses, your file, it's not unrealistic that your file will end up looking like 2 or 3 gigabytes in size and 5 or 6 million records across all these different tables, and it will take time. So like 100 analyses in a modest-sized solution may take you 18 hours to process. In Inspector 8, that's going to be roughly 10 minutes, right? So what we're doing is we're basically grabbing the XML, grabbing everything the first time, and then every other time is just the differences. Okay, what's been added, what's been removed, what's been modified, and we just do that. And if you're refactoring your code, your actual footprint in Inspector is actually shrinking, is getting smaller. So you're actually going to have fewer items over time. If your code base is increasing, then it's going to be one-to-one based off of what your solution is. And so over time, your solution footprint in Inspector is going to represent what you have in your system. And it's not unrealistic that you could do 100 analyses in just one day, in 10 minutes over the course of time.
All right.
So this is the biggest kind of architectural change that we've had in the system. And because we just do the differences, that means that when we process an analysis, we're able to get in there, find the changes, document what's done, and get out. Which means that all of these analyses take very little time to do, and so your system is in sync to keep you informed as to what references and dependencies are for all your various things.
All right, you haven't actually showed it working yet. That being said, yeah, perfect time to drink. If it was up to date all the time, because for me, it's like I do base elements, but I have to I haven't done it in a month. I need to do it, right? It's this thing that's not real time. It's like, okay, I'm at the end of the project. I need to find all the broke scripts, like starting point, right? How do we find all the things that are broke or not broke or whatever? And it's like this thing that happens every 2 or 3 months, right? You're saying that this is designed to stay up to date in real time while you're building. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean it's almost real time. I mean there's some processing that goes on, but it's almost real time. So
well, if it was daily, if it was updated daily, that's a hell of a lot more real time than every 3 or 4 months, right? So,
well, I'm saying you could update it every 5 minutes. You don't have to wait for it to be daily. Again, there's the whole idea is to like your music, that your roll-in music that you have, like that keeps you in the groove, right? So this idea that you want to stay in the groove of development, right? So for example, here's Starting Point, right? A system that you know very well. I downloaded a copy. I am going to remove this button from this layout, and I'm going to process it. So right. I'm going to process it. I'm going to type in a comment. Sometimes typing in the comment is the slowest part. So I type in a comment, removed button. Okay, run it, hit return. It's running on the server right now. You're going to see it over here. It generates the XML on the server. It's processing it, and it's almost done. It's done. And so it found 1 modification and 1 deletion. The modification is because the layout got modified, and the deletion was the object that got deleted on the layout. And if I look at the results, it'll tell me, so for the most recent analysis, so I have 1 object got deleted and the layout got modified. So the layout, there's 2 attributes on the layout. the modification count got noted, there was modification counts were different, and the number of objects on the layout got picked up.
All right.
And
So
yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt. We have questions
Yeah.
in flight.
Yeah.
Is that okay? If people are asking
go for
questions,
it.
you want me to? Okay, here we go. So
Yeah,
I want
go
to
for it.
welcome all the people on Discord that I didn't invite, but I want to welcome David Angel. First question says, so Inspector 8 runs on the server all the time? Question mark.
Inspector 8 is on the server, and if you want to run it all the time, you can set up a script schedule to run every 5 minutes or however frequency you want.
Running, I think, just means it's actively hosted, right?
It's actively hosted. Yeah, it's actively hosted. But if you want to run it, you could write a script schedule and run it every minute, every 2 minutes, every 5 minutes, whatever you like. And that means what I just did, I would not have to document and run it. It would pick it up in the background, and every 2 minutes it would be up to date.
So when I mentioned it was real time in so much as that it runs an update script. Basically, it's getting XML data out of your solution. It's finding the changes to XML data, loading them in an Inspector 8, all on the server. This is server-side processes, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can run it locally too, but the best efficient method of running it would be on the server.
So then if you have a 5-minute delay or a 10-minute delay or every lunch or whatever you want to do, you could have it up to date. So it's pretty nearly real time, David. That's pretty cool.
Well, it's like an log of all the changes you've ever made to your database.
Yeah, I mean, you can, like, we'll get into this maybe more details into each of these areas tomorrow, but there's attribution as well. So you'll be able to see who changed what, when, and then you'll have a change. But Margaret, be careful. Like as you saw there, right? I just showed it to you. Like so this was run today, right, by myself. But these changes were picked up and noted to the person here. V Manano made these changes. So if it was someone else on my team.
Can I ask a question? We're understanding the updates on this, but can you show us? I mean, I understand. So a lot of people here haven't used your product. They maybe don't use other competing products at all, or maybe do. But can you show us the fundamentals of what is the benefit of running your product? Not that it's better than version 7 or that it runs on the server. Why does it? How does it help the developer?
Well, okay. So for example, if you were to look at like let's say this contacts file, and I have a value list. So this value list here, right? Job title. If I go look at that contacts file, let me see that I uploaded here. I don't have that contacts file, but I have this meetings file. Let me look at the meetings file. The meetings file has, let's look at the value list there. So I have these different value lists. This one here, my new value list, copy 7, whatever.
Yeah, copy 7.
If I go, so if I go look at the dashboard for that solution, for that meetings file, and I go look at all the value lists that are in there, this one here has 0 references to it. Okay, so now let's go look and see, like if I go to this field and I go and add that value list and I attach it to this field. Okay, so I didn't cover this yet, but I can also run. So I'm going to leave this open here. So this is my list of value lists, and we're looking at the last one. And over here on the right, you'll see the reference count is 0. If I go look over here, I can run the analysis right from Inspector. I don't have to open up the solution itself. But I can say, I can just say, demo. Let's say hit return. It's running. If I go look at this, you'll see over here that's got a reference now. That value list is now referenced. If I look at the reference, it'll tell me that reference is now a drop-down list on this layout, on this layout object, etc. And I could click there to go see it. But now, like if I were to go in here and I, have a solution I haven't worked on in a long time, and I look at this and say, I don't need this anymore. I don't think it's used anymore. Let me just get rid of it. Okay, done. There's no warning. It just deletes it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
now I
yeah.
go back here and I run it. I don't have to type a message. I can just run it. And if I look over here, you'll see a little warning icon show up momentarily that there is now a problem with that because that was referenced. Or sorry, actually, I did it the wrong way. I should have.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So like
It's a
it
backwards
removed that.
demo, but people here
Yeah,
are going to
yeah,
understand this. So go ahead.
yeah, 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 yeah. So like,
It got
what I
rid of
should
it
have
here.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What I should have done is shown the field that it was on, right? So now if I go back to the dashboard and I go look at layout objects, there's some problems on layout objects. And if you see there's a field here, and probably one of these was the one that there's the value list that's missing on that field, right? So like that problem got introduced because I had no awareness of where the references were for that object, right? So I could, if I wanted to, kind of troll the XML for this, but this is what you'd be dealing with. You'd be looking through here, through all this code to say, find that value list and see if it's referenced somewhere, and you'd have to know to look for that ID. This is the DDR version, but this is the XML version, and this is just a different file called untitled. But you get the idea. I'm like scrolling through XML to figure out like where that thing is and referenced.
There,
So
Margaret, you have a question. Go ahead and throw that question out, Margaret.
Do you have a document which lists the features and benefits of InspectorPro 8?
Yeah, on the website, we put together a video that covers a lot of the different areas of Inspector, and during that video, we do describe some of the benefits, etc.
The number one
yeah.
for people here, for me, and I don't do enough development. I spend about a day and a half a week doing development, not nearly enough. For me, a tool like this, the number one thing is that I forget. It's like what Margaret did. See, Margaret, in the back of Margaret's mind, she's not old enough to know that if she like takes and blows something up, that it might cascade backwards and cause damage at other places. I, in my head, know I'm afraid to make changes, and I'd like to have the confidence that I'm going to make a change that won't break things. So what he's demonstrating here is the essential fundamentals as a developer. If I see a layout that looks like a junky layout, it wasn't commented because, God forsaken, I forgot to comment something, right? Or one of the people around me forgot to comment. Do you know if I get rid of this layout, is it going to blow up the planet? Right? That would be really bad. And that's for me personally, the number one reason to use these tools.
Right. And that's exactly what you're saying here is you gain a lot of confidence by looking at this. Here's a list of layouts. And on the far right, you'll see this layout is referenced twice. This layout is not referenced. However, you have to understand also to kind of look in other areas like look at functions or script steps, go to layout by calculation or go to layout by name, etc. And see if you're using those kinds of indirection. If you're not,
that's the indirection word. Yeah. So let's talk about a terminology for some people here who don't know what that word is. Explain to them what is indirection.
So indirection is so like in FileMaker, the beauty of FileMaker is when you say go to layout and you select the layout, behind the scenes, FileMaker is tracking that as to that layout by that ID. And so you don't have to worry about it, and it's all kind of done for you. But in other cases, you can also choose to say go to layout by a certain name, and you type in the name of the layout, right? And now you have the layout name or the layout number, which is another method which you can define. And if ever you change the name of the layout, then that function is broken unless you kind of figure out a way, a novel way to say, let me get that layout's name by the layout ID number, etc. But the basic idea is if like you're kind of hard coding a reference, and that kind of approach can lead to fragility.
Yeah, big time. So, and of course, the more professional developers, the Vinces of the world, the Todd Geis of the world, Wim DeCourts, all the top tier people, they tend to want to use indirection, right? I tend to stay away from it because I'm afraid it won't give me the telemetry I need, but on a tool like this, but
Yeah.
it's an advanced skill set. So you're saying go to a field or go to a layout or go somewhere by a calculation, and it's going to do if Larry the Marine is this, and if Labo is this, and Ken is this, and Mikey is this, and Peter Gaines is this, and Dirk and Goodiddy and Jesse. Hey Jesse, how's it going? Jonathan 3 Zulu, all these people on Discord. And if David Angel is present, go to layout called quote doggy 5, right? And FileMaker doesn't know what that calculation is or how it works. It doesn't care. All it knows is that it doesn't see the reference. It only sees the reference at the time it runs and the calculation processes. If that makes sense. So it's this idea of hard coding it versus this indirection in quotes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can do indirection in a number of places in FileMaker. And so you have to be aware of those places, and you have to be aware of, like you can say perform script by name, you can say evaluate, you can say let, all those kinds of different things where you can type in a string and then the string is the reference. And there are ways to actually make it more safer. I'm not going to get into those just now, but there are ways to also make those evaluations so that if you do change the field name, then it gets picked up, etc., and you can still use indirection. But if you use indirection, that indirection doesn't get picked up as a reference. So you have to understand that part of it. So understanding your solution and understanding if you use those types of functions. So let's say you can look through a solution and say, hey, I'm not using go to layout by name, go to layout by number. So I have a lot of confidence then that these numbers are right. And that means that this layout, I'm going to be able to remove it and not cause any problems. That's kind of like the bottom line.
David Angel, could you show a script reference? David, is that
script reference? Sure. Let me see here. So I have scripts here. And so I have this script. Go to field entry. I got 12 references of it, and it's here. These are on these layouts. These are on these buttons. I can click it. I can go to that layout object. I can go to the button, and there's that script. It's referenced on that button. It tells you also the location of the object, the button, and there's some other kind of niceties here. Like if I go look at that whole that layout, I look at all the objects on that layout, you'll see all the objects on the layout. This button happens to also be contained, has a parent, which is a panel. If I click on it, I'll see the parent panel, right? So I'll see the button, it's in this panel. So it tells you information as to where the object is. And so it tells you the anchoring information, et cetera, et cetera. But so it gives you kind of insights to where to find the object, et cetera, and it's helpful. There are things I'm hoping that Claris will add in the future. I keep asking for things like deep linking. So, for example, I have this button, and I see this problem with this field. Take me to this field so I can.
I was going to ask you for that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, where's my deep linking? So, because you telling me where it's at, it's like a coordinates 51.49 latitude, 431.3 seconds east, 42.9 seconds west, and there's a button there buried under the floor mat. Don't push it. And I'm not picking on you. It's the limit of what we have, but I want it to press the button. It brings up the solution, circles it, right, and says, here it is.
Well, things are underway already. And what is that thing that they added like in 21? The quick find, what is that?
Open quickly. Yeah, that thing's
open quickly, right? So that from what I'm told, that's kind of like laying the foundation for being able to do some kind of deep linking. I don't understand. Yeah. So it's coming. It's coming. I'm hoping sooner rather than later. And I hope that what we'll get is kind of like a bi-directional deep linking protocol. So like if I'm in my solution, right, I'm in, where is it here? I'm in the meetings file. and I go to this object, right? This object here, and I'm in layout mode. I want to click on this object. I would be able to say somehow to get the UUID of this object and feed it into like a URL that I can call Inspector and say, show me the change history on this object. I did talk about this a long time ago with Clay and different people at Claris, and they're aware of it. I think that the plumbing needs to get established before they can actually do
Before
the linking.
we have to plumb it
Yeah.
before we flush the toilet. Awesome. That's a great advice. All right, plumb it before we
Yeah.
flush. Nice.
So let's see. Let me go back to here.
That's the
So we
problem
covered-
coming on the show, Vince, because people ask questions and suddenly the show takes these weird turns.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, no
But
problem.
I want people to ask questions about this, right? And
Yeah, absolutely. So
all right, it's a conversation.
let me just make sure that we covered today at least the add-on and the integration methods, because that's going to lay the foundation for tomorrow's discussion as well, too. So,
All right, cool. I'll be quiet now. I'm sorry.
All right, and I just want to mention, I'll leave this up and I'll come back to it, but let me just, we do have this discount code, but we'll leave it up here at the end. So let me show you how the add-on works, because the add-on is very cool. So let me create a new file. I'll call it the inventory file, let's say, and I'll put it on my desktop. And now this inventory file, I want to add the add-on integration that comes with Inspector 8. So here it is. I'm just going to choose it. It's been added to this solution. So what we now have is we have a table, we have a layout, we have a set of a set of scripts, and all I need to do is basically just drag this on the layout. And when I go to browse mode, I click it, I'll get this card window. And the only hard thing to do is in Inspector, when you create a solution, you'll go up here, say new solution, you fill out this information. I'm not going to go through this right now. You fill it out and you create it, you'll get a new solution record in this list, and you'll get this ID on the left. That's all you need. So like, let's say this was the file called tasks and it's hosted on the server. The ID is 582. All you need to do is plug in 582 over here, and that's it. And then you type your message, hit return, it's running on the server. That's it. The add-on is done. Okay, this if I were to run it here, this is an old copy of our add-on, so I'm not going to bother kind of with that, but let me show it to you in the context of FM starting point. I've added it recently. Here's the add-on. Here's the settings. There's some settings for it. And so here's where you type your message and then hit return. It will automatically run. The other option is don't even bother typing a message, hit the option key, press the button, it's running. Okay, so it gets out of the way. And so like, again, like what we saw before, I made that change where I deleted the button. I'm gonna undo that change, right? I just made a change. And if I option click on the button, it's already running on the server. I can get back to work and continue working. If you see over here, it's going to start processing. It's generated the XML on the server. It's told Inspector to process it, and now it's processing it, and it's done. It's done. So now I have an added item. A button was added, and the layout modification thing got popped up. So again, it's just getting out of your way so you can continue development. Okay, so. In terms of integration methods, you have the add-on, which is one method to bring it into your file so you can run it there. Second, you can set up a script schedule to run at a recurring interval to just run and say, generate the XML and tell Inspector this XML is for this solution ID, and that can run every 5 minutes, whatever you like. And that way your developers can just do work. And they never have to worry about documenting what they've done. Or the third method, or actually different methods right from Inspector, you have 3 different methods of integration. Manually upload. So I have a file. Let's open that file I did recently. Let's say this inventory file. I generate the XML. and I save it in a folder here on my desktop. That file is generated. All I do is just say run, and then it'll ask me for where the XML is. I give it to it, I give the folder to it, and then it sends that all the contents of that folder up to the server and it processes it. That's one method that is very similar to the old way we used to do it in Inspector 7.
Yep.
Okay, the other way is by window names, right? So window names is, I can say I have a bunch of files. I have one or more files. I have a file called inventory. The window name is called inventory. And I want to run an analysis for this file. So what it's going to do is right from Inspector, it's going to say generate the XML for a file with the window name called inventory, and then send it to inspectors on the server and process it. So I don't even have to actually go to the file and generate it. I can just generate it right from here. And as a matter of fact, I can give it a list of window names, and it'll generate all the XML for all the list of names that I've given it in this field right here. So it'll generate all the XML for all those windows, and then send it over to Inspector and process it. This you don't want to use on a hosted solution. Like, for example, I wouldn't want to put FM starting point 23 light -x2 in here, because then what it's going to do is that file is hosted. It's going to generate the XML from the server all to me here locally, and that's going to take a horrendous amount of time. And then it's going to send it back to Inspector server to process it.
Yeah, no, I get it. I have not tried doing XML output from the server with the XML2, but you're saying that's really slow from the server?
Oh yeah, try it even with one of these small files. You can try it. I can show you. It definitely takes time.
No, I believe you. I
But,
just one of those things
yeah.
I was not tried that. All right. Because this is going to
Okay.
be the XML exporting is going to be essential. It's like oxygen for FileMaker. People don't realize it yet, but as the XML2 becomes fully baked, shall we say, that's going to be for everything that we patch files and do this and do that and have great third-party tools like yours to integrate. It's critical.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of work going on right now, and it's continuing to add more features and development work around XML. So we're going to see a lot of really cool things in the future. Yeah. Any other questions, Richard, Margaret?
I don't see any in Discord, Margaret. I'm watching Discord.
No, I think people are basking in the awesomeness. It's very cool. People are saying that the add-on integration in particular.
That's pretty cool. Once again, I think they need to see how it makes their development better. But yes, I think that's the fundamental of this, because a lot of these people here just haven't bought tools like this. Some of them have, but some of them haven't. I'd be interested to know what other folks are using here, but this is a tool that in a lot of ways reminds me of Base Elements, but it seems like a hell of a lot easier to use and a hell of a lot more responsive and less invasive. It doesn't get in your face because you have to export it and then import it and line it up and wait for it to process. This seems a lot easier.
I don't know where Nick is in terms of switching over to use the Save as XML. And I looked at the Save as XML almost 5 years ago. And then I thought, okay, well, this is the DDR. Oh no, this is the actual Save as XML. This is the DDR. So there's two different flavors of it, and so the DDR database design report has a different structure than the Save as XML. And so I looked at it a few years back, and I built a prototype using AppleScript and XProc to process the XML. And I had a movie that I put together for an internal presentation to one of my friends at Beeswax and colleague Luke. And I showed it to him, like, I think it's going to be possible. We can do this so that we'll be able to process the XML, see where the catalog changes are, and process just those items and be done in literally seconds. And that was a movie to prototype that this is going to be possible, and it took us 5 years to get here. So, but
Yeah,
that's not,
so
you know.
are you mostly good? Because I need to do the backstory in this just a little bit so people know what we're talking about. Once you
Yeah,
get to the what
I'm mostly good for today. I think, like unless you have any other questions and stuff
well,
like
there will
that.
be questions here. Let's just talk about the
Yeah,
XML1 versus
yeah,
XML2. So can you just set this aside? Let's go into FileMaker real quick into any solution. Let's see
yeah.
what we're talking about. Um, so if we go we go to layout mode and we go up under
Good
tools and we have,
tools.
yeah, there we go. Database design report. Then down below, you can check the XML button and then you hit the create right there. So we don't have to go through this. The point is that this is XML1. This has been around since the dawn of time. It's been around for a long time. What Claris has been working on, starting with FileMaker 16, 17, was this idea of a high degree of fidelity in outputting. They want to take FileMaker and output it as text, and they're using XML to do this. And they wanted to, because the XML that you see right here can kind of loosely show you what a FileMaker solution is, but it's not high fidelity. It's like if I said, "Hey, is this Richard Carlton? I'm trying to meet him here," and you randomly picked another human off the planet and dropped him in. It's a human, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, bad personality, but it's not really that person visually, right? And so there's a lot of things that are not preserved in XML1. XML2, if we hit cancel and you just go up to the tools menu up there at the top and you just hold right there, that right there, it says save an XML. That's XML2. That is the Star Trek transporter we've talked about. The idea of beaming someone from point A to point B with perfect fidelity. So when they come out the other side, they're not missing body parts. Claris has been working on this. It kind of works. It keeps chopping off fingers and eyes and ears and things like that. In an emergency, it's great, but you don't want to have it lopping off fingers. And so Vince, seeing the writing on the wall, realizing this was going to be the hot to use, rebuilt Inspector to leverage this. But this has been slow going. I know Claris engineers have wanted to work on this because this is a game changer. In the world of FileMaker, there are certain things that will propel, like sales, marketing, and the CEO, they get to me like, "Hey, Richard, how do we make the platform grow?" I said, "Dude, we need freemium and we need the XML2 stuff to be done. Freemium brings brand new people in the product for free. XML version 2 allows us to perfectly take a FileMaker solution, copy pieces out of it, glue them into another FileMaker solution. You don't have to rebuild it, Margaret, like you do now, right? You glue them into another solution and it rematerializes. So if you want a third arm sticking out of your head, I like a third arm sticking out of my head. Copy it,
You can ask
paste,
AI to do that.
ask AI to do that. Well, see, that's all part of this because once XML is perfectly rendered, then you could actually have the AI go in there. How hard would it be for AI to manipulate XML? And so there's all these things that are attached together. So then, of course, Claris management was like, "Oh, we don't want to invest in XML2 because we don't see where that would be good." So then the engineers are raising holy hell about it. And so now, for whatever the reason is, product management and engineering is now back to thinking XML2 is this thing that they've got to finish. Yeah, they should have finished it years ago, but I'll take a win where I can get it, right? So if they can get this thing done to where it quits chopping off body parts, because if you think about it, there's some security questions in it. Like if I take a FileMaker solution, it's got a bunch of credentials, a bunch of passwords, and I I turn it into atoms to beam it from point A to point B, you can read all the text. You could read the passwords and the usernames and stuff like that. So what do we do about security? And that's been a big one, right? If you beam it from point A to point B, does it strip out the credentials or something? How does that
Well,
work?
the passwords are obfuscated. They're not passwords, so they're just like some kind of hash or something. So
Sure.
you don't have those. But if you have credentials for systems that you log into, then those are there. They're
Yeah.
stored in there. But there's other ways to deal with that.
There's
But
Well,
so,
that's what they've been working on. That's what held them up.
mhm.
It was not something easy to do. So historically, this has been what they've been working on, and now it seems like it's the flavor of the month again, and now they're working on it like busy beavers. So
Can I run SASE from the Inspector Pro as well? So are they saying that you schedule the scripts in the actual Inspector Pro UI?
Instead of triggering it from the where you're building the solution, Vince, they want to know if you could trigger it from Inspector Pro. Then it runs it.
No, no, we don't have like a schedule thing in Inspector. Although, like, so example again here, I added the button, but let me make a change to a value list, for example. Like I'll do the thing that I'm not supposed to do. I'll delete this account value list. Okay, so the account value list is gone. Sorry, Richard. I'll run it from here. So I could click here and type, oh no, I type a message and hit return. The other thing it can do is just to hold the Option key down, run it. It talks to your solution, runs the integration scripts to generate the XML on the server, and then it processes it. And now I have one deletion that got. So if I look at the results, I'll see that one value list got deleted by whoever that person was. The deletion
No,
is
he's
not
actually working on our solution right now. We're almost at starting point 24. In fact, we probably should run it through your tool here to see how many problems it has before we ship it. It's like any week here. So new version.
Yep. So anyway, just to answer the question, there is no scheduling capabilities from Inspector. If you want to schedule it, you'd set up a script schedule, and there's a very small JSON snippet that you would insert that would tell it what is the solution, what is the solution ID that this XML would be for, and I can share that tomorrow if you want to see it.
If people, I don't feel like we fully made the case for people to go buy this yet. I think that happens tomorrow. But if you are already on the fence and you're thinking about this thing, you want to get a discount code, then FM Training 95 gets you 95% off. No, wait a minute. That's a typo. It's FM
15%.
Training 15. You get 15% off. Go and get the discount code. It'll be for the through the end of July. Well, Vince is doing a great job with this. Tomorrow is going to be more of I don't know. What are we doing tomorrow with this?
Tomorrow we're gonna just run, different things where we'll change a bunch of things. We'll look at some of the features that are in there that we didn't talk about today. We'll talk about notes and tags, so you can add notes and tags and how they reconnect themselves to every time you run an analysis, if you reset it, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that we can cover tomorrow, and then there's some AI stuff that we added in this release that we'll cover tomorrow.
This is awesome, everyone. Good job, Vince Manano. Excellent work. Ken says, great stuff. Looking forward to tomorrow's demos. Yep, tomorrow will be good. And then Nick will be back on Monday. Peter Geen says, thank you. All right, everyone. Appreciate it. Vince, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.
See you tomorrow, Richard. Bye. Bye, Margaret.